Okay, Alexa will go. Okay, so I guess we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for checking.
Okay, I will go ahead and call the order of the September meeting of the Plan Review Committee. Jackie, would you call the roll?
Sure. Scott Ferris,
Present.
Julie Thomas, Jerry Pittsford said he would be absent, Jeff Morris,
Here.
Dave Bush,
Here.
Travis Dixon,
Here.
David Jenner. Is that here? And then Alyssa Williams is a proxy, and I think she's online. And then Jason Bell is also a proxy. 4 members in person and 2 proxies.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. So we have no administrative business tonight and no old business, so we can jump straight into new business. The only item under new business is PUO-24-4, the Westgate on 3rd Planned Unit Development Outline Plan Amendment 2. So is Ann online to take this, or are you going to?
I'm actually
Jackie?
gonna take
Okay.
this one, yes. So this is just a reminder for everyone, we are being recorded, so this is on both Teams and in person. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this for Ann. Tammy and Ann are both at a conference this week. So this is PUO-24-4. It's an outline plan amendment. It's the second outline plan amendment for a Westgate PUD. It's, the property is located at 4755 West State Road 48. It's already substantially under construction, and this amendment is to do the following. So they would like to remove 33,000 square feet of first floor residential space, along with 3 elevators interior to 3 buildings, and instead add 42 units of the development in phases 7 and 8. So this is a recommendation by the Plan Review Committee. This petition would then go to the Plan Commission and then for a final hearing at the County Commissioner level. So I'll go ahead and just pull open the plan here. So the request is to change buildings 1, 2, and 3. These currently have in the outline plan, they're listed as having elevators. And they would like to remove that requirement as well as remove the commercial first floor requirement and put in the residential space. The petitioners did upload a few extra visuals for you all, but I'll go through just some drone imagery that was provided by one of the petitioners, Ryan Huffman. So this is from 48 looking, I guess that would be south. And then this is the site as well as we have aerials from pictometry. And then this is the location for those of you that are unfamiliar with it. It's right across from Ivy Tech. And the zoning is planned unit development. And then they have sewer and water connectivity as well. The comprehensive plan, which is what we're here to discuss tonight, has this both as a mixed residential and a mixed use. So the top part is zoned for mixed use. This is sort of a gateway into the county. And then the southern part is mixed residential. So they do align with the comprehensive plan for a lot of this development. In their proposal of removing some of the commercial space, you'll see some gray that has been highlighted to say that they're not aligning with the comprehensive plan. So it says that it may also include neighborhood commercial uses as a local amenity. So they're going to be removing out any commercial uses on the property with this amendment. They already are approved, but they do not have a block pattern. So that's something that is listed in the comprehensive plan. And then they have approval already for sidewalks that are different than being on both sides of the road. Those 2 items are not under this amendment. They're already approved as such. And then they're also wanting to make sure that the neighborhoods are feeling as if they're organically evolving over time. That's not truly happening with this development, but again, that's not something that's technically under this amendment since they've already been approved.
It also says should.
As they should. So this is specific. It says uses may be integrated vertically within buildings such as residential or office over ground floor retail. So you're actually going to be losing that specificity by having just all retail vertically within the building with no ground floor retail. This is not going to be a subdivision, so it's all one lot apartments, so these are for rent. I'm going to indicate also the petitioner's exhibits here. They wanted us to open 2 visuals. So here are 2 visuals that they're proposing, I believe, as part of the amendment of what it would look like without the first floor retail. That was added into the petition attachments yesterday. So overall, staff is recommending a negative recommendation due to the incompatibility with the Monroe County Comprehensive Plan. But as I mentioned to Dave when asked the question, we're looking at a variety of findings as it relates to rezones, which this is considered a rezone. And ultimately, it's a legislative decision, so they don't specifically have to follow those findings to come up with a different end recommendation or an end vote. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. I have
Okay.
a lot of questions. Are there elevators being installed on the remainder of the buildings in the PUD proposal? That would be phases 1 through 6.
There are no other elevators other than in these 3 buildings.
Okay. And why were they originally proposed to be put in these 2 phases, these 3 buildings?
You know, throughout the actual outline plan, I remember seeing language about barrier-free entry. So I think that they were interested in having it be accessible to all people. The way that it was designed, I think, the person that proposed the outline plan originally, the PUD rezone, is no longer involved in the project. So they've since been, taken over by an actual general contractor who is actually doing the construction plans, coming up with some of the, budgetary information on what it's going to cost to put these things in. So I think that original selling point is different than how the general contractor is now involved to see this proposal. It's quite expensive to have elevators.
Sure. Do you know, I found some conflicting information in here. Number 1, 42 versus 41 units. And do you know if all these 41 units are proposed to be accessible, or I would call them ADA compliant, or not? That was a little murky as well for me.
Right. So looking at the actual outline plan, what are the proposed changes? When we asked about the accessibility and ADA accessibility to apartments, the answer that we received from, I believe, both under the building code and by the general contractor is that none of the units have to be built specifically for ADA accessibility, but if upon an application by someone who requires ADA accessibility, they will comply with making sure that it converts and is ADA accessible. So I think it's in their best interest to have at least a few units where conversion is easily achieved. But I don't believe that they're outright building ADA accessible rooms or units, such as like what you would see in a hotel with like ADA accessible rooms. They're not just building those in before they have demand for it.
I didn't know because obviously they're getting rid of 3 buildings worth of commercial space on the first floor, and that it seemed to me would be an easy transition to making an ADA compliant unit on the first floor, because I drove the site earlier today, and there's good sidewalk access, there's the street cuts and everything that allow people with mobility scooters or whatever to easily access the neighborhood. Bus, 2 bus stops, I think, in the area, right in the immediate area. So I see a lot of pros to this, but I didn't know if this is, I saw a lack of specificity in what they were willing to commit to. So that was the question.
Sure, and remember that, all of the buildings that they have on the property all have first floor residential. So I think in their outline plan amendment, they're listing that there would be barrier-free 3-story apartments. I think it would be in total 125, to count all the first floor residential units across the development. And I think those would make sense to hold keep those able to be converted easily for accessibility reasons. They would have to.
We want to just make our way around the table with comments. Isabel, did you have?
Great. So how long has this project been going with the other buildings? I mean, was it 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Was it 5 years ago?
When they got the approval?
No, the other buildings that are already done that don't have the commercial space down below. When were those built?
They're in the process of being built, so late last year, early this year, got the building permit.
And I apologize, but I'm trying to get caught up. So why are these different than the other ones?
So under the outline plan for the Westgate subdivision, they had written in specifically that buildings 1, 2, and 3 up by the road would have 84 barrier-free 3-story apartments with elevators and interior hallways, approximately 11,000 square foot of ground retail/business services, and approximately 22,000 square feet of ground floor private office/business services. So in order to strike that from their own ordinance that they put in, they have to go back through the amendment process.
Got it. And then can you explain to me why you guys are saying a negative recommendation?
It's largely because of the comprehensive plan. So that mixed use and mixed residential use that's listed on this property, they would be getting rid of that mixed use component by only having residential.
If there's any comments or questions?
So, only certain buildings originally were to have elevators,
Correct.
not all buildings.
Right.
Okay. When we take and when the county takes and approves something, is there a standard? I asked somebody this question. I know the answer to the question, I think, but I want to hear it out loud again. Is there a standard when we build a multi-level facility to have elevators in them, regardless of what is on each floor?
I think that's a building code question, but I don't believe, I don't know what the triggering point is to require an elevator.
But it's not in the comprehensive plan.
No.
And it's not in the ordinance.
Right.
It's in neither one of those locations.
Correct.
And we do have examples of other things that you guys have approved, or this body has approved in the past, where you have a multi-level facility that did not have elevators in it, correct? I'm talking, this is consistency. This is the consistency argument.
We haven't approved very many multi-level apartments. I'm thinking Hayden Flats, and I'm not sure if they ended up having elevators or not. I will get back to you on that question.
So, to me, this is a safety issue. Okay, being able to access a building. And if you have, and I mentioned this before the meeting, if you have young people, children, you have elderly people, and I'm carrying things from my car, and I'm climbing stairs, and I'm going up to third floor, okay? Or I'm moving in. These are not furnished, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm moving all my heavy furniture in.
Right.
How am I getting that in the building? I mean, I know a lot of buildings that have freight elevators for that purpose. So you could go to the side entrance, load it up on a freight elevator, take it to whatever floor, and you can move it in without trying to navigate up a stairwell. Has anybody had any type of discussion like this in the past?
How will you get furniture up the stairs?
Yeah.
What are they doing on the other buildings?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go there next. I'm gonna go there next.
Yeah.
Because if it hasn't been discussed, it should be discussed.
Mhm. And the other buildings, you know, as Jason mentioned, it, they've gotten building permits, so they've passed building code for what they're building without elevators.
Okay, so next question, and I'm just gonna have you restate what you just said. So they already have building permits on those other buildings to proceed without elevators
Correct,
in Monroe County.
correct.
Interesting.
So the residential building code, just to remind everyone the way that works, so the state comes out with a residential building code every so often. The latest residential code was 2020, and we are not allowed to be more strict than the state. So planning and zoning doesn't have that limitation where there's a state code. Sometimes there's state provisions and we can't be more strict than those, but the state says, here's your ordinance, and so the building department is largely administering the state code. So if it doesn't require elevators in the state code, if they were to try to require, or the commissioners wanted to put something in to require elevators in apartment buildings, we may be at odds with what the state is
So,
requiring.
and that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
So now I've got buildings, existing complex that already have permits, okay, that do not require elevators. Okay, so the issue to me now becomes the commercial space on the first floor and creating the urbanization, more urbanization of the area, that argument. In lieu of having a commercial space for a coffee shop, et cetera, on the first floor. Okay, and so next question would be, do we have any examples where we have taken a multi-level facility in Monroe County, out in the county, and required them to have first floor commercial space?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe I have the answer to this question before I ask, but I think we need to state them out loud. So now we're really more, this is probably the first time that this is being addressed then, right?
Right, but I don't know, you know, if they would have proposed plan unit development here without first floor commercial, we still would have said the same thing. We don't recommend approval for your plan unit development because it lacks a commercial space. So it's sort of like they probably proposed that part of their outline plan to meet the comprehensive plan, which hasn't changed since the original approval of the PUD.
Even though it says should,
Yes.
doesn't say will.
Mhm. And I do want to just note that the discussion of the elevators, you know, we could say technically some of these things are separable, right? So they're requesting different edits to their outline plan. So you could say yes to 11,000 square feet of ground floor retail, but no to the other 22,000. So that would indicate, you know, I can see it going away on one of the buildings, but not the other two. So the text amendment that they're proposing is like line by line that you'll see. So
So if I were to take and look at these retail spaces,
Let's say,
how many businesses could we fit into these buildings? Is it 12? 9?
because of the elevator requirement and the way that the grading is for the property, I believe they said that one of the issues is that they have a corridor down the middle of the commercial space long-wise. And so if they got rid of the elevator, then I think it opens up more of the first floor space to be, in their opinion, better utilized. And right now with that middle corridor, you'd be entering some of the commercial space from one side of the building and have to go around to the other side and enter the commercial space from the other side. So it's not like long commercial units that are, so they have some design issues with those.
Is there a desire, I mean, we're all familiar with that area out there. Is there a desire to have commercial space on the first floor of these facilities?
By the neighbors or,
Anybody.
okay.
Anybody?
I mean, the comprehensive plan does state that it should be there. You have Ivy Tech. You don't really have a lot of other commercial uses in the area. I mean, we can go back to some of the tenants as to why they recommended approval on the PUD in the first place, but I don't know if neighbors would necessarily, knocking down our doors to say we want to see first floor commercial.
So the next question is, do we have an issue with urbanization and the creation of additional units and saturating that area? Do we have an issue with that? That's a loaded question.
I think the way I would answer that is, I believe they still they over plan for parking. So I don't think that there's any need to amend some of the parking areas. As they have 330 units now, they're asking for 42 more. What percent of that is, more than that? They're already kind of planned at a certain density. So I don't see there being a safety issue in adding that density. I see that they have enough amenities. I see that they have enough parking. So I don't see that as necessarily a concern. And I will say also, they're recommending, you could say you have to keep the elevators, but you can get rid of the first floor retail and make it residential. So I don't want to overstate it's one package. They would like it to be one package that you review. But if you find that you can only recommend approval or parts or not all, they're separable.
My whole argument or discussion point about the elevators, if in fact you have permits for the other facilities and they do not require elevators, but now all of a sudden I'm standing on my head and I'm saying you need to have elevators. I'm arguing with myself right now on how I can take from a consistent standpoint, make an argument. Personally, that's for me. Even though I think it's really like I said before in the last meeting, it's a fatal flaw that you don't have elevators or a freight elevator in a building that has multi-floors to it. For those of us who've had to move stuff over the years.
Can I add on that?
Sure.
So when the whole project was presented and they said these three buildings are gonna have commercial, and was the decision made to move forward with that whole project because of those reasons? Or was it more like, hey, great, but the whole project's approved? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Sure, yes. I think that because they had that first floor retail, you could say they better align with the comprehensive plan, which helps you with a rezone. I think that there was some discussion about that area being in need of small grocery stores or convenience food. And then they also offered the office or business space because they were next to Cook. So you're kind of positioning this, in a way of we can be a service to the community, right? We're not just building apartments. We're gonna be a gateway location for other people outside of the neighborhood to also utilize the space.
So why elevators in those buildings and not the others? Why did they say elevators?
I can't answer why it was only those three are the ones that are closest to 48, and then you also have the Cars Farm Greenway. So I don't know if the intent was just that those would be barrier-free from, walking out. You would be able to get straight to the Carstrom Greenway at that level without any stairs. I don't know why they put in elevators, to be honest, in those three.
Did it have anything to do with the accessibility question?
I think that's probably what it was.
I think it was, and
We haven't found that.
Right.
But I think that's probably what it was. They're making the argument it's accessible because we put the elevators in these buildings, so therefore you have that ADA discussion that you had earlier.
Yeah, they say barrier-free, 3-story apartment, so they were able to call all 3 stories barrier-free.
So ergo, what they're doing now is that we'll get rid of the commercial space, we'll put them all on the first floor, you don't need the elevators, and so we met whatever discussion point that is.
right.
If I capture that correctly, I think. All right, I'm gonna ask you questions.
No, it's a great question. It's one I was struggling with quite a bit while I was reading through this. And I never did find in there anywhere where they pledged to keep the, correct, if I'm using the wrong words, forgive me, but accessible for people with disabilities, physical disabilities. And if they pledge to keep all those ground floor units accessible, it would make more sense to get rid of the elevators. But somewhere else in there, I know they were talking about rent relief and trying to make it affordable for people that are on limited incomes, and those are just going to be scattered throughout the 3 floors, it's my understanding. So that doesn't solve anybody's issue if they're, mobility challenged.
Saying the,
Do we gain anything by saying, okay, so instead of requiring commercial space across the board, you just have to have X number per building dedicated to commercial space?
so this is a red line version of their ordinance, and I'll go ahead and show this, since this will be put into the next one. So they originally were set to the 84 barrier-free 3-story apartments. They're changing that number to 125 barrier-free. I think that's, like I said, a compilation of all the first floor residential throughout the development.
Throughout the 8 phases.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And 20% would comprise of workforce housing.
Okay.
Then they're striking 11,000 square feet of ground floor retail business use, 22,000 square feet of private office business use. And then this is the change in the density, so from 8.68 to 9.76. They're saying 371, but I understand your point, 42 plus 330 is 372, so we'll make sure that that's corrected. And then they're wanting to switch out the, I think they are doing still some community gardens, but they're also doing pickleball courts. So just to be clear, so if you could, the plan review committee, the plan commission, and the county commissioners ultimately can approve one red line strike, but they don't have to, you can either approve all of them or some part of them. This is the text amendment.
Gentlemen.
Figure off this way, So, throughout this, and I think you kind of maybe have answered one of my questions already. I'm trying to figure out, you've got, this, it's a mixed use. You take out one of the 2 uses, because there's only the 2 types of use. Then you no longer have a mixed use, it's a single use. So, that doesn't work. So my original question was going to be, but we answered it already. What is the minimum that they could get away with and still be a mixed use? It sounds like maybe 1 floor of 1 building would be enough to be a mixed use. And then I'm just working my way through the language here, having read it the other day. And it talks about the stuff that you've highlighted in gray, which is stuff that seems maybe to tend toward inconsistent with this proposed change.
uses may be a certain way, integrated vertical buildings with residential or office ground floor. And the intro statement here that they may also include neighborhood commercial uses and so forth. And then in picturing this development itself, I'm trying to think, how are they gonna fill up all of if it's all three buildings, one floor of each building, the bottom floor, how are they gonna fill those up? Are they at the point where they've maybe started having some conversations with some folks and they're maybe not confident they're gonna be able to get commercial renters in to, fill those spots and like, hey, maybe this isn't gonna work out? Or was it a runaround? We can propose this way, we're gonna say it's not gonna work out, and then we're gonna come back and ask for a change. That second version would bother me. But there are realities of, what is the market for that type of space? And does it make sense to have, because we've seen them around Bloomington and the city limits, there are these, developments like that, buildings that don't have, or maybe they're half full or 3/4 full, but I mean, there are plenty of available, first floor commercial spaces, not too far from this in the city limits. So I'm just kind of, put that all together in my head and, what makes the most sense here with the language in the plan. And it seems to me like the only thing I would be comfortable with if we were to vote on something here now, as far as a recommendation, would at minimum include at least some commercial space, because it's not a mixed-use development if it's all residential. Now, exactly how much that is, I don't know. Maybe it's not all 33,000, maybe it's 22, maybe it's 11. But I would not be comfortable saying, okay, well, you don't want to do it anymore as a mixed use. We're going to pull back and do something different.
And this is the list of the commercial uses that they went through and added as possible permitted uses within that first floor. And to answer, I think, your question, like I said, the person that proposed the PUD and got that approved is no longer, serving as a general contractor for the project. And I also believe, I think it was stated in here, they were going to offer, if a designated commercial use remains vacant for 2 years, ownership has the option to convert the space to more in-demand commercial retail or office use. I believe they also were offering a contract with a retail that allowed 2 years of rent-free lease with a 5-year contract. And so I think when they were planning out this development, I know that the general contractor told me that, hey, we're assuming that the first floor commercial is like a net zero. Like, we're not assuming any revenue generation from that first floor retail. And that's how they started the project and the budget for the project. So if that tells you anything about first floor retail, they were already at zero.
That was then.
Right.
Well, this was last year.
Yeah, but now it's now.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
I think one of my concerns is we've heard petitions on this particular property several times now as a plan commission. And so what was initially presented to the community and approved has slowly backed away from that. The last one, I think, was the removal of covered parking and something else. I can't remember what the other thing was.
Pickleball courts.
Yeah. And if we take away the ground floor retail and take away the elevators, what ends up appearing in this neighborhood is much different than what was supported years ago when this was approved. So I think that's a thought to what Mr. Thixton said about the retail space. I think it would be unfortunate to take it all away, because I think, as you mentioned, it's on the Cars Farm Greenway. So I think, there's opportunities for a convenience store, something that would benefit more than just the apartment residents. But at the same time, there's vacant retail space all over the place in the first floor.
Right.
The one I'm thinking of specifically closer to town on 3rd Street at 3rd and Patterson has, I think, 3 Amigos in there. And
They've been in
maybe
for 3 years.
It's been vacant for years. So, it doesn't seem to make sense to have vacant space sitting there either, so.
I mean, isn't it a deal breaker if we drop the mixed use?
For them or for the PUD?
Envision the people we have on the plan commission.
Mhm.
If you drop mixed use from this discussion, from things that have already been approved, is that a deal breaker?
That's up for you guys to discuss.
I know that's, you don't have to answer that. But I would argue there are people who are gonna say that's a deal breaker. So,
Have they given any, and I apologize, I didn't get through all of it, have they given any indication of this is why we're changing, like, we can't keep this running if we don't have more units, we can't, like, have they given a specific reason why it's from, like what you said, here's where we started, here's where we're at now on a request? I mean,
I think that their concern is that the first floor retail will remain vacant, and that's not a service to anyone either. So they've mentioned an interest in offering housing at an affordable rate for the city of Bloomington, and I think they're willing to enter into agreements, or, they'll put that in the outline plan. So I think it's just a point in which they're really would like to see the elevator requirement go away, because like I said, design-wise, they've shown us that it has to require a corridor down the lengthwise part of the building, and it just kind of makes that first floor very fragmented and not usable. Already you have a lack of demand for first floor
so
retail.
what was the purpose of the elevators in the design in the first place?
I know, but
I don't know the answer to that question.
Right,
so the other thought that I had is the Three Amigos, like you guys talked about, empty space. But then I also think on the positive side, it's on the south side, it's a roundabout there by the, what is that, Sherwood Oaks. You go just past it and there's an Edward Jones and a coffee shop, and it's really nice. It's turned out to be a great space, commercial space. So I was kind of along the line with you where if you took one of those middle buildings, the closest to the middle, keep it retail on the bottom, make the other two, or it can be ADU. So then they have one building with, whether elevator or not, but one building with commercial, keep it the same, and then do the other two with the ADA on the bottom. So, and then you sell the mixed use, but you're allowing for more either affordable or whatever on the bottom.
And so when Ann had this discussion with them, did any of this come up? This is compromise, this is what this is. Should it come up in the discussion with Ann?
I think that they were waiting to hear what you all had to say and go back to them, because they're putting on the table, here's what we want. They really have been asking us for our recommendation. We've been saying, hey, it's still not gonna meet the comprehensive plan. But then I think that they put in the workforce housing to kind of alleviate some of the concerns of, like, this is just a strip of all the things that they're required to do. And they want to be able to say, well, in return, this isn't just like a money grab. We're committing to having 20% workforce housing. But I think that they're understanding that any part of this can be approved and any part of this can be denied. And so if, even if you, like you said, take two commercial retail out and leave one, in their mind, I'm sure they would think that's a better place than where they started.
With the planning, you guys have a negative recommendation. If it was a situation like that where you took part of it out, would that, I don't know if you can answer this, but would that give you more of a positive recommendation if it was still mixed use, but to eliminate?
Yeah, I think if there's a mixed use component, I think that's the main thing we're looking at in terms of comprehensive plan alignment.
All right, I'll be quiet.
So my position on this is I have more questions now than I had before. That's where I'm on this. And obviously they need to answer those questions.
Yeah, I have one comment on the elevators, and it's not a decision in my mind, but I think if they take the elevators away, I think that's unfortunate because I think it's limiting who will want to live there. I agree. Got to be somebody who's fine carrying their groceries up 3 flights of stairs and is fine carrying a couch up 3 flights of stairs, things like that. So I think it takes away elderly or people with kids or several other factors. So it really limits who can live there. So I think that's a difference from what they originally presented. But at the same time, to what we've talked about, I'm not sure how we can hold them to that when there's not any other cases that we can think of where elevators are required. So I don't have a decision in my mind on how I would vote on that. I think, did we have Ms. Williams online too? I want to make sure she has an opportunity to weigh in.
Yes. Alyssa, if you're able to hear us, I didn't know if you have anything that you wanted to add at all. You should be able to now.
Yes, I can speak now. Thank you so much. I really like the idea of having just one be retail and stuff and then letting them take away the office space. But I feel like at some point they like if we kept retail, got rid of the business suites in that commercial building, I think it would be good to have an elevator because then they're having to compromise a little bit more because then there's the retail component and the elevator, so then it would have more access in that one building and then go ahead and let them have the additional apartments in the other two buildings. That's just my thought.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Anybody else have comments or willing? Yep.
I have two. Number one, I'd still like to find out I share your concern as to how those elevators got in there, because I don't want it to reward a last minute change in the original design that maybe limits the availability of these units to people who need elevators to get up and down. It's a large segment of our society that is not at the top of their mobility potential. The other question I had is regarding open space. If these 41 units or 42, whatever it ends up being, are allowed to exist in lieu of commercial or business space, is the project required to have the additional 200 square feet or whatever it is of public open space for each one of those units that are being added back in?
So the PUD's open space requirement is actually by the entire property since it's not being subdivided. Yes, it's in phases, but it's not like usable open space per dwelling unit.
I get that. Maybe a better way to ask the question, originally when this was conditionally approved, they had 300 and some odd units.
Right.
And so I'm sure the open space calculation was based upon that. So if you're adding in 41 more units, are you still going to comply with that open space requirement?
Put the picture up there of the overhead that shows the green spot, which is where the karst was, I think, right?
Yeah, they've got the big karst area, which I've seen, yeah.
You don't want,
Yeah.
it's out there. Show me the picture.
So you're adding a little over 8,000 more square feet of green space, basically.
Yeah, I think it's 8,200 if they did all of them. And you know, it may be that karst area more than covers all of that. I just wanted to make sure we weren't setting ourselves up for failure here.
So that's a call it 40 by 40 area.
Know that, they were proposing a certain amount of open space. I think it's like, I want to say, it's well over 25%.
Okay.
I'm not sure that they were asking, or we were requiring a certain amount of amenities per dwelling unit, though I understand what you're getting at. So I don't know if it was originally calculated Total impervious coverage does not exceed 40%. Designated open areas are done Westgate exhibits. All open space, including the cars area, will be designated as unbuildable and will be owned and maintained by the controlling company. Let's see if they have a section about amenities. Signage.
Yeah.
They're striking.
This developer, like the new developer, he's an out-of-towner, is that correct?
This company is, based, that's a good
Do you know?
question. I know they just finished the development in Fort Wayne. So they mostly focus on the Midwest. I think they were Chicago-based. But they've done developments in Ann Arbor, Fort Wayne. I think they've done other developments in the Midwest, largely around college towns.
So we're at, the phase we're in right now is the art of negotiation. You've got new folks involved, and what they're doing right now is they're pushing. And they're gonna see how far they can take and reach compromise. But before I'm willing to commit on anything, I have more questions. And one basic question is why elevators in the first place? Okay, and the second thing is, do we want to take and allow less commercial, more residential, but still keep it mixed use? So you meet the spirit and intent of the comprehensive plan. I mean, these are, and in the spirit of compromise, how far do you go in the spirit of compromise? And the other thing is the ADA portion of that. If you're going to have 3 buildings, which are essentially the accessibility buildings and the ADA compliant buildings, essentially you're sectioning off an area in your complex for that element.
Mhm.
So these are basic questions. What is your intent? That make sense?
I don't know how much numbers you have, but so before you have 3 buildings, elevators, where I'm gonna make the assumption, right or wrong, that the elevators were in place for elderly, everything, just to be able to move up and down and to cover that square footage on the upper levels for accessibility. How many square feet are there on those levels of 3 buildings that were ADA before with retail on the bottom? And if you subtract 2 elevators and put ADA, we'll call it on the bottom floor, how much are you losing, how much are you gaining for those? Does that make sense? And I don't know if we're gonna have the answer, but
If each floor is 11,000 and you have a 3-story, you can assume probably you're not.
you're losing 22,000, right, by moving the ADA to the bottom.
I think that's a problem. Because now you're not meeting the spirit and intent. Those are what people discussed
Very free.
in the very beginning. So
Mhm.
they're necking it down.
So if you take 2 buildings, keep retail on the bottom, elevators, ADA on the one, you've accomplished still the same goal. Then 2 buildings.
Is anyone willing to make a motion for a recommendation to send to the plan commission or a motion for no recommendation?
What questions do you have that need still answered? I know that.
I'm going to pull a Jerry Pittsburgh, that is that I have questions. You know how he does, is I still have questions. I'm not ready to take and vote one way or another. That's my own personal perspective. I wish I was smart enough the last time we heard this to ask those questions, but I'm still in learning mode like a lot of folks are, so.
We could agree, I believe, Jackie, to not make a motion and just let the questions go forward to the plan commission. Is that what we want to do?
Is that an option?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would personally be fine with either 22 or 11 for what it's worth, but if that's not the consensus, I don't need to make a motion and propose that.
But the condition is that there's more questions.
This is not a motion, but I like the idea at first blush. I like the idea of adding 41 more units because in that area, it seems like that area could support it. There's commercial and there's a lot of commercial a half a mile away. So, and there's bus lines that, 2 bus stops that run right at, they stop at that place. And as like I was speaking to earlier, the sidewalks, there's cuts in the sidewalks both sides of the road. So it's well supplied with amenities to help people get around and get to the business centers. However, at that point, it no longer is mixed use, it's single use. And I'm struggling with, if this were brought as a single use development initially, would have even had the ability to get started? You know, I suspect not. I suspect that's why they went with mixed use and went with the PUD tag. As much as I'd like to vote for the whole thing, I don't think I can yet. I mean, I think I just have to kick it on
I think
with no recommendation.
I think folks are gonna have problems with the mixed use portion of it. That'll be the sticking point, because that's what people agreed to, and that's what the comprehensive plan, I mean, that'll be the, I could hear the argument already.
Okay, so it sounds like we have no motion. So is there anything else for us tonight, Jackie? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for your time. I
Thank you.